Hey, what's up, guys? It's AndyTPK, and I recently finished Persona 5 Royal, so I thought I'd give my first little initial impressions slash review type thing. Not really a review because I haven't sat down and written a script or anything, but just figured I'd talk about my experience and if I think the game is worth it, especially if you already played the original. So, we're just kind of going to go straight into it. So, Persona 5 Royal is an enhanced re-release of Persona 5. Persona 5 was originally released on the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4, but Royal is only available on the PlayStation 4. It also has PlayStation Pro enhanced performance. So, overall, the game, I mean, if you're expecting a completely different game like a sequel, it's definitely not what you're going to get, but I do think that you're getting a lot more content than you might initially assume. So we'll start off with some of the small changes that you'll notice if you've played the original. The first one that I think really stands out is the character portraits. So a lot of the character portraits have been completely redrawn or reworked, and they've added about 2 to 3 different portraits for each character, specifically like them in different angles and stuff, that allows them to be more expressive in dialogue. I think overall it just improves the presentation of the game and adds a lot of character to each of the Phantom Thieves, which was nice. Those new character portraits haven't really been done for the confidants and side characters, although they might have been touched up. Everyone definitely looked really polished, but you'll definitely notice it for the Phantom Thieves, even if you just go ahead and look at some comparison screenshots. I think one of the most drastic changes is probably like Ryuji. He looks a lot better now, or Morgana. So I would definitely look that up if you're interested to see how different they look. Another small change that's been made is that certain lines that originally were not voiced are now voiced, so maybe you'll notice in a few more cutscenes they'll be actually fully voice acted instead of just dialogue like they were originally, which is a nice touch. There's still a lot of dialogue that isn't voiced, but it does feel nice to have new lines there. And a lot of them are performed really well, so that was a nice little touch they added. Also, a lot of the dialogue has been reworked, rewritten. There were some errors in the original translation of Persona 5, just small lines here and there that might not have sounded right, that were fixed. There might still be some issues here and there, but overall it's a lot better. I feel like they're also more true to the characters. I know specifically I've seen a few instances of Ryuji's dialogue that's been reworked that sounds a lot more natural and like something he would say, so that's definitely really appreciated. And then you might notice there's also a font change on all of the dialogue, like boxes and stuff. Not a super huge change, but I think it does look cleaner. The lettering is a little thinner, so it's something you might pick up on. There's also more language options, I believe. I haven't really gone in to see if they are like dubbed or if it's just more subtitles, but I do know that there are more options than there were in vanilla. Other small changes also include the addition or the inclusion of Merciless as a standard difficulty in the game instead of as a separate download. Oh, and also the Japanese voices, which originally you also had to download separately. Now they're just all included in the game, which is nice. Speaking of downloads, all of the original DLC for Persona 5 that was released, that means every single costume, persona, skill card that was released for the original Persona 5 has been released as one singular Legacy DLC bundle for Persona 5 Royal, and it is completely free. I believe when it was released in Japan, they actually had to pay for it, but in the West, and I think in just about every other country now, it's completely free. It'll include all of that DLC. Just to note, if you download that DLC, having those additional personas like Izanagi and all that will affect some of your fusions, because it'll add in more personas into the mix. So I would recommend using a fusion calculator if you're trying to get a specific persona that's not of those DLCs. I believe if you can find the fusion calculator, if you Google it, make sure you go to the Royal version and that you set which DLCs you have. That might just help you out in gameplay. Some people recommend you don't download the DLC right away, but I did, and I was fine. It's not like all of the fusions turn into the DLC ones or anything. There's also brand new DLC for Royal. It's not required, it's just more costumes and personas. There's a costume pack for Kasumi. There's a few different new costume packs, like the dancing outfits from the Persona 5 dancing game, or some Neo Featherman costumes, just different stuff like that. You don't need to get it, but it's available there. It is a little pricey. I think it's like $7.99 per costume pack, and then for the Kasumi pack, it's like $15. The only DLC that really adds more gameplay, though, is probably the challenge battle pack. So I'll go into this a little later, but there is kind of like a challenge battle mode that you can do in the Velvet Room, and that DLC adds more stages, specifically a fight against the Persona 3 protagonist and the Persona 4 protagonist. So if you are a fan of those games, you might be interested in that. You can also buy all of the Royal DLC for $60, at least in the US. It might be more in your country, I'm not sure. So now let's get into some of the bigger changes in the game, specifically pertaining to gameplay and palaces. So a lot of the gameplay has been reworked, specifically baton pass and technical damage. And I definitely noticed it in my run. I did utilize baton pass a bit before, but it was kind of difficult with later party members that were kind of locked out of it because you had to get their confidant to a certain rank to use it. If you don't know, baton pass is where if you hit a enemy's weakness and there's more enemies on the field, you can baton pass to a teammate and they will get a damage boost, as well as maybe they'll regain some HP and SP. And then normally you would just do a powered up attack with them, and that's kind of that. You could pass it to other members, but in the original it wouldn't really make a difference. Now in Royal there's 4 levels to baton pass, so each time you pass it to another member it gets stronger, and once you get to the 4th person, their next move doesn't cost any HP or SP, and it's really powered up. You'll also be able to upgrade their baton pass if you go to Kichijoji, which is a brand new area in the game. If you go play darts with the characters, they can get up to rank 3 with their baton pass, which just increases how much damage they do, and also as you up their baton pass ranking, they'll be able to recover HP and SP. So it's a really nice rework, because now every character starts off with having baton pass, so you don't have to worry about them earning it through a confidant ranking. Now the technical damage has also been reworked, although I can't say I utilized it too much, but I do know you can also upgrade that. Now for baton pass, when you're playing darts, you can only rank up people individually, so you can pick a partner and then the second partner is random. So if you still haven't ranked them up, you could totally rank them up and do 2 people basically, depending on how good you are at darts. But for billiards, which is the other thing you can do at that same location, it'll rank up the entire party's technical damage. So technical damage is, let's say you used an electric attack on an enemy and it shocked them. Now the next person, if they do a melee attack or some other sort of move that says technical right by it, it'll do additional damage. It might get them down, or just do a lot of damage. If you upgrade your technical damage all the way up, you can start having certain effects depending on the type of attack you use. Now, I didn't utilize this one too much, but it was useful to me. I did use it a little bit in the early game. Later on, I didn't use it as much, but baton pass definitely was always helpful. I think those are some pretty decent gameplay changes that you'll definitely feel throughout your playtime. Now, palaces have been slightly reworked. For the most part, they're still pretty much the same, but there are new areas. Some areas have had new layout changes. And there's the addition of a grappling hook, so now there's a little bit more verticality. Most of that, that's mostly used for getting the new collectible in palaces called will seeds. There are 3 of them in each palace, and each time you get one, you recover some SP. After you collect all 3, they'll merge into a brand new item that grants you an ability. And then if you take that into Mementos after you meet a character named Jose, he can actually turn it into a stronger item. So it's definitely something that is worth collecting. I would recommend collecting them in every palace. Now, obviously, the main part of the palaces are the rulers, and a lot of them have, actually pretty much all of them have been reworked. So each of them will have new elements to their battle. This is mild spoiler just for the first palace, but for example, when you're fighting Kamoshida, he'll summon a cognitive version of Mishima and Shiho to help him in battle, which he didn't originally. And other palace bosses have been given new stuff similar to that. Some of them completely change the way that you have to tackle that boss specifically. Some more bigger changes than others. I think overall, though, they're pretty welcome, except for one of the bosses. Let me think. I think he's the 5th palace ruler. So he was originally really easy, but they've actually reworked him and made him much harder. Kind of broken, to be honest. So that one might be a little difficult. That's just a fair warning. If you're going to go into the game, be prepared for that. It's going to be a little unfair. But overall, everyone's been changed for the better. I think every boss is more interesting, and it adds a little bit more fun to the game. Especially if you play the original, it's cool to see all the new changes. Aside from some of these gameplay reworks and palace reworks, we have some story changes. So there are a total of 2 brand new characters. Maruki, who is a student counselor, and he'll show up after you beat the first palace. And Kasumi Yoshizawa, who you actually get introduced at the beginning of the game, and you'll see her throughout. So there's brand new scenes with both of those characters, and also brand new confidants with them. If you want to access the brand new content, like the new 3rd semester, you're gonna need to max them both out. Well, you max out Kasumi, and then you have to get Maruki to level 9 before he leaves, basically. It's sometime in November. And Akechi has had his confidant reworked. In the original game, it was an automatic confidant that just progressed as you got through the story, but now it's just like a regular one, so you actually have to go out and hang out with him. If you want to get there's a post-credits scene, and I believe he's also a requirement for the 3rd semester, so you're going to want to get him to rank 8 before November 12th or 19th. I forgot, but it's sometime there. Just make sure to hang out with them. Like certain confidants, there's some progression that's locked to the story, so if you're not progressing with Akechi anymore before November, just wait until after the 2nd, and you should be able to progress him again. Just make sure to prioritize them if you really want to try out the new content, which I recommend, because there is a brand new palace as well as brand new endings, and it's definitely very much worth it. There's a lot of really nice story things that have been added. Like I said, there's brand new events, brand new cutscenes that you'll see through the game involving the new characters, but also just brand new events and scenes that will be added with the other characters. So it's definitely nice. They've even added nice little pictures that you might get after certain events in the game, or from accepting people's invitations, and then you can view them in your phone or in the new Thieves' Den. So speaking of Thieves' Den, I might as well talk about what that actually is. So Thieves' Den's kind of just like a place where you can put statues of other characters' personas, or areas where you spent time with confidants. It's kind of like a little playroom. You can listen to music there. You can view cutscenes and other stuff like that. So, I mean, it's just a pretty fun, cute little feature. You can play card games with your teammates there. But yeah, mainly it's just a little side mode. It doesn't affect the story at all. As you progress, you'll unlock more stuff. I did forget to mention that there is a new mechanic called Showtime attacks. They're like team attacks that you'll unlock a little later into the game. You'll basically get a nice little cinematic with 2 characters, and it'll do a pretty damaging attack. Just a little tidbit, each of them has 2 variations, one for bosses and one for regular enemies. So if you notice a change, that's why. So if you want to go try them out on a boss, they are kind of random. They're activated if a character's at critical health, or has a baton pass to them, or I think if the enemy's almost beaten. So it is kind of random, but they're nice to see. And you don't need both characters in your immediate party at the time. If you have already a party of more than 4, and you have someone in the back that has a showtime with someone who's in the front, they can still activate their showtime, so don't worry about that. And yeah, overall, that's most of the major changes without really spoiling anything. I definitely don't want to get into too much detail, but it is definitely a lot of stuff that wasn't in the original game, and I think there's enough changes to consider this worth $60 for sure. I put 140-ish hours into the game, and I have also beaten the original twice. I think I have over 200 hours in the original, and I had 100% of the compendium and done a bunch of other stuff. And I know there's a lot of stuff I didn't even mention, but I mainly just wanted to talk about my experience. You could find out more of the specific changes if you really want. There's plenty of videos out there about that, but I feel like you should really just go in and kind of see it for yourself. If you've never played Persona 5 and it's something that's interested you, I definitely think that this is the definitive version, and I would heavily recommend it over the original. Not that the original is bad or anything, because obviously it was a really strong game that helped boost the popularity of the series in the West and around the world. But I definitely think they went back and fixed a lot of the issues in this version. And all the additional content really beefs up the game. I think originally, for my first playthrough of the original game, I had less playtime than I ended up here. And obviously, I already knew a lot of the game, so I was able to blaze through palaces a lot faster. Originally, I would have to take multiple in-game days just to finish a palace, but this time I was able to get through most of them in a day. I just had to be careful about conserving my SP and stuff, but I didn't have that much trouble. To be honest, I felt like the game was a little too easy for me, but that could just be because I had already beaten the original twice, so I knew what I had to do, basically. Because again, the layouts, although there's definitely some changes, and I was surprised by some of the changes with removing certain areas and adding new ones, it was still relatively the same. So if you're pretty familiar with the original, you might be able to blaze through the palaces a little faster, but that doesn't mean you're getting less content. Because again, like I said, I got 140 hours. I did max out all the confidants. I did max out all my stats. I got to level 99. Although honestly, experience and money wasn't that difficult, because there have been a lot of reworks and mementos I forgot to mention. But basically now you can increase how much money and XP you gain in mementos once you reach a certain point, and you can pretty much double your XP and money. I would recommend focusing on money and just trying to get that to double before you start going into XP, and then you can even increase how many items you get every time you pick up something. But I did save that for last because it didn't really matter, because by the time I got to the end of the game, I literally had maxed out my money, and like I said, I got everyone to level 99, and I was able to easily beat the Reaper. I also would like to mention that there is a secret boss that you can do towards the end of the game. Although I kind of just stumbled upon it. I don't really want to spoil it because it is pretty far in. Just look out for that. Aside from that, obviously, there's still secret bosses. Like I said, there's a challenge battle. So in challenge battle, you'll fight different waves of enemies, and you are given specific challenges like, use this character to hit this up, like to hit this many opponents or something. And if you get a higher score, you get better items and stuff. I only really did it once, to be honest, to just get a specific skill card or something. And then after that, I kind of stopped trying the challenge battle, but that's because there was so much other content that was already, taking up my time with the game. Although I definitely think it'd be fun to go back and actually do the challenge battle on a New Game Plus. There have also been some reworks to the Velvet Room, among other things. There's just too many changes to really list. But I had a lot of fun. I think I was able to connect with the characters a lot better this time. And it was still pretty sad to say goodbye to everyone, even though I know I can replay the game. I felt like the characters were better written. Since there was more events, I felt like you could really feel the friendship and camaraderie between everybody. And I really did enjoy the brand new characters that were added. I do like the reworks to Akechi. I think they added a lot of character to him. He was definitely a character that really needed some development, and this new confidant fleshed him out quite a bit, and I think they made him a character that I actually really like now. As for certain characters that some people complained about not having enough development, like Haru, I think this time around you should be able to work on her confidant. I know some people were having issues with specifically Haru not being able to max her out due to how late in the game she comes in, but I think now with the additional semester and everything, you'll have plenty of time. And I know that they made it harder to rank up your social stats, but it honestly felt kind of easy. I would just say, really make sure to look for different ways to raise your stats without wasting your time. Also, you are given additional time at night. Originally, Morgana would kind of tell you to go to sleep and you couldn't do anything, especially after palaces and stuff, but now you're given a lot more chances. Morgana specifically will still let you do stuff in LeBlanc, so although you can't leave your house, you can still do stuff there. There's a crossword puzzle, which I recommend. When you see that crossword puzzle on the table, do it. It'll increase your knowledge by doing it, and it doesn't take up time. And just do other stuff, and then once you get one of the confidants perks that lets you go out again at night after Palace, definitely make use of that and just try to get the most out of your experience. I will admit that I did use a guide for a large portion of the game. I didn't follow it to a T just because I still wanted to enjoy the game in my own way, but it did help me max out all the confidants, and I would say that that's definitely a goal you should shoot for. I did have a lot of extra time by the end of the game, so I think even without a guide, there's a good chance you'll be able to max everyone out. Just make sure to schedule everything correctly, and make sure to finish certain confidants. I believe the Sun Arcana has a deadline sometime in November. He did in the original game as well, so make sure you focus on him so you can max him out. And I think it's worth it maxing everyone out, because you get additional little scenes towards the end of the game with all your confidants if you maxed everyone, and it really adds to the impact of the last half of the game, so definitely recommend doing that. Overall, I had a pretty positive experience. Persona is one of my favorite video game franchises. I got into it with Persona 3. Persona 4 is probably my favorite game, but I think gameplay-wise, Persona 5 is definitely the best, specifically Royal. Royal might have the most content, to be honest. Definitely has the most polish. It has great voice acting, great dialogue, great gameplay. It's really fun. If you think it's too easy, you can also change the difficulty at any time to hard or merciless. And like I said, there's a bunch of free DLC you can go and get, so you will get a lot of content out of this game just off the bat. I definitely think it's worth $60, even if you've played the original. And I think if the last time you played the original was anytime before last year, it's something I would recommend picking up like immediately, because it'll still feel like a brand new experience, and it's a good refresher too on what you played. Like I said, I played the game twice. I played it once on in the release year. I finished it in the later half of 2017 just because I had dropped the game for a little bit, and then I played it once again in early 2019. And even though I played the game as recently as last year, I found Royal to be a really enjoyable experience. I was able to still be enthralled in everything, and I still followed the story like normal. Yeah, I would just recommend it. It's a great game. I would probably give it a 10 out of 10 if I was going to give it a rating. I don't really see many flaws in it. I mean, obviously, as a person who's played the original multiple times, I did think the game was maybe a little too easy. And I think once you max out all your social stats and you get all the money and your levels maxed out and your confidants are maxed out, you have a kind of lack of stuff to do. But I mean, the story battles are still really fun. Like I said, there's a challenge mode you could feel free to try out. And if you enjoy those little moments traveling the city, then I think you're going to enjoy the game a lot. It's definitely something that I would recommend. Plus, you're going to get over 100 hours at least. And I think the game is pretty replayable. I mean, after you beat it, you can go ahead and bring all your bonuses into New Game Plus, try a harder difficulty, play with costumes. You can do a lot of stuff. You can, I think even just the fusion system itself could really carry you for a lot of hours. I did spend a lot of hours just trying to make good personas and fill out my compendium. And I believe now it's actually possible to completely max out every single stat for a persona. So you could even just have fun making completely broken personas and doing challenge runs. Because I mean, if you're skipping all the cutscenes on a New Game Plus, then you're still going to get some decent playtime out of it. I definitely wouldn't recommend skipping anything, even if you think you've seen everything in the original, because, like I said, there's small changes to scenes, some more voice dialogue, so it's worth going through again, because it's not going to be exactly the same experience. It's definitely a much bigger change than what Persona 4 Golden did, or what Persona 3 Fez did. It would have been nice to get, a completely different story route like Persona 3 Portable, but it's understandable why they wouldn't want to basically tack on a second game onto this. It's probably one of the biggest changes in one of these re-releases, so go ahead and try it. Thank you guys for listening. This has been AndyTPK talking in his closet on the floor on a hot summer day when he really has to go to the bathroom terribly. My stomach hurts so bad. I hope you guys stick around and watch some videos later. Anyways, I hope you have a good day and stay safe during the quarantine. Bye, guys.